Do you like playing video games? What is your favorite video game? Is it a platformer, RPG, sandbox, or something else? What do you think makes it good? Most people like video games, but few people know what kind of work goes into programming a video game. Today, I'll try to draw back the curtain and invite you to see the work that is done behind the scenes to make a game a world of its own. My name is Carl J. Bown, and I've been studying game design for 4 years and have an associate's degree in this school's simulation and game design track. I am also starting at the university level in the fall at one of the best schools for computer programming and game design on the East Coast. I have studied many aspects of game development, from design to animation, and the one I'm most fond of is programming. It takes many people working together in teams to create a game. Games are generally made by large teams where each person specializes in a particular area. Programmers work alongside lead designers, character artists, writers, level designers, audio artists, and more. The programmer is the one responsible for taking all the individual parts of the game, from the story to the artwork, and putting it all together into an interactive world. Programmers are a very important part of the game design team. Most video games start with a lead designer who plans how the game will play, then it's up to the programmer to make it work. The writer develops what the character's setting and storyline will be like, the artists and animators create all the visuals you'll see when you are playing the game, but the programmer's job is to take all of that and put it to work together. Assets such as models, audio, level layouts, they don't make a game by themselves. The programmer is responsible for making the game run, making it do stuff. Like Nadia Stefine from CG Spectrum says, a game programmer writes the code that brings a video game to life. The mechanics of your favorite video game? The programmers made that happen, along with the capabilities of the player character, the enemies and NPCs, and even the user interface. The best analogy for what the programmer does is that they build the muscles of a game. So what tools does a programmer use to program games? Besides a computer, of course, the most basic tool for coding is the programming language a given game is based on. This language is what everything else is built upon. It tells the computer what to do in a language that we can understand and the computer can interpret. There are various computer languages, such as the C series of languages, JavaScript, Python, etc. There's also a game's engine, which according to GameScry is defined as being a set of software tools or APIs built to optimize the development of a video game. The engine basically acts as a framework for developers to build around. Going with the human body analogy, it's the skeletal system. Engines typically have built-in tools for making the construction of the game easier and basic assets or pre-existing functionality. Some companies use pre-built engines for their games, such as Unity or Godot. However, many companies instead build their engines from the ground up, often with the specific game's needs in mind. Programmers especially spend a lot of time in an IDE, Integrated Development Environment, which is essentially a text editor designed specifically to work with code and a project's chosen programming language. So what does a programmer actually create? A programmer's job is to write code that controls every aspect of the game and makes it work. They give functionality to what would otherwise be lifeless objects or out-of-context assets. They're also responsible for making the different objects interact with each other and the more abstract systems that govern the game, such as health and damage systems or the user interface. Sometimes programmers even create tools for themselves or other team members to use to speed up their work. For example, a tree placement algorithm for level designers. Most game engines are based around an object system where everything that exists is in a given scene is held as an object. These objects are what programmers attach code into in order to make them do things in the game. For example, Unity calls these game objects, and everything attached to them components. To give a game object its functionality, programmers attach their written scripts onto the object and also leverage the use of pre-existing components provided by the game engine that provide basic functionality, such as managing the physical placement of an object in a scene, applying physics to the object, or rendering the object visible via sprites or models. Scripts typically do two things: manage data and perform processes. A script can also be written to have connections to other objects and components. Data, in programming typically referred to as fields, can be something a script creates, modifies, tracks, and uses in processes. There are many forms of basic data types that lead different things like numbers, positions, colors, words, and much more. Processes, in programming typically called methods, are functions that tell the engine to do something. They are where data is modified and events are executed. These are activated by other processes or standardized methods that can run when the game tells them to, such as the self-explanatory start method or update, which runs once every frame. Scripts also use connections to other game objects and components in conjunction with data and processes, oftentimes managing the data of another object or running processes belonging to another component. What kind of skills go into being a programmer? The biggest is creative thinking. When a programmer writes a new script into the game, they have to figure out a way to implement it, often needing to think creatively to come up with a solution. Problem solving. Eventually, when an implementation doesn't work or a bug is found, the programmer has to identify and solve that problem. Often identifying the bug is much harder than solving it. Technical knowledge. The programmer, of course, needs to be able to understand and write in the programming language chosen for the project. Mathematics. There's a lot of mathematical calculation involved in programming a video game, especially in regards to movement, requiring an understanding of trigonometry and math on multiple dimensions. Data management. Processor-efficient coding also necessitates an understanding of how to manage data. Simplifying what data you collect and what data you check for can allow the program to run much more quickly and smoothly. Organization of functionality. A programmer has to delegate functionality to different processes, components, or even objects so that they are only run when they are needed. Programming for a video game requires a lot of technical knowledge and complex thinking, but also takes creativity. Other aspects of effective programming are also involved are mathematical calculation, geometric manipulation, data management, and task organization. In conclusion, although most people love to play video games, not everyone has the skill set needed to create them. The game programmer has to integrate all the other team members' work and build functionality into a game that is seamless enough for you to immerse yourself in the experience. The job of programming is what takes a storyline and a bunch of artwork and brings it to life. It requires a wide variety of skills, both technical and creative, and involves a high level of problem solving. It is interesting, challenging, and vital to the creation of any game. So next time you play your favorite video game, if you make it all the way to the end, maybe take a look at the credits and think about all the work that went into creating your favorite game for you.